Welcome to It's the Groove, the podcast that takes you under the wrapper to uncover the hidden connections in the music we love. Hi, I'm Dave, and as always, I'm joined by the 80s music muse herself, Kelly. How are you today, Kelly?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Is it warm enough for you?
It's hot. Well, not too hot, but it's hot in here, so.
Yeah, I know. So we got a hot session for you today. We are going to go back 50 years to the summer of 1976 and talk about a band that, I don't know, can you see this, Kelly? Can you see my shirt?
Oh, you're wearing the Chicago shirt.
I'm wearing my Chicago shirt. Yes, we are
Oh.
going to talk. So, Kelly, what does the band Chicago mean to you?
Well, of course, it's named after my hometown, and it just means good music that has a great horn section.
Absolutely. So we're going to go back to Chicago 10, which was released in June 1976 and is celebrating its 50th anniversary. This album occupies a unique place in the band's history, known affectionately as the Chocolate Album. Do you remember that? Do you remember the album cover?
Mm-hmm.
It
Yep.
looks like a
Chocolate
big
bar.
chocolate bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Every time I look at that, it makes me hungry. uh, More importantly, this marked the moment when Chicago's reputation shifted from being primarily a jazz rock horn band to being one of the biggest pop rock acts of the late 70s. There's no denying that Chicago 10 remains one of the band's most important and successful albums. But before we talk about the album, we're just going to give you a very brief history lesson. Chicago itself started in 1967 when saxophonist Walt Parazaider had the dream of forming a rock band with horns. At the time, he was a student at DePaul University, and he went around and started recruiting some of his friends and musicians that he knew. And the band was first known as The Big Thing. Then it was rebranded to Chicago Transit Authority. In fact, their first album came out under Chicago Transit Authority. But that caused a little bit of a ruckus with the people that run the buses and trains in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to shorten it to just Chicago, and that name stuck. So the founding members of the band, all of whom were featured throughout the band's first 11 albums, were, you probably remember Peter Cetera on bass and vocals, Terry Kath on guitar and vocals, Robert Lamb on keyboard and vocals, Loughnane, the trumpet player, James Pankow, the trombonist, Walt Parazaider on sax and flute, and Danny Serafin on drums. They were also assisted by Lauderdale de Oliveira on percussion, and their albums, at least the first 11 albums, were produced by James Guercio. So we're going to do a little bit of thing where we're just going to go track by track through side one. And give you a taste of what the band was doing in this album. Once or Twice opens up Chicago 10 with a burst of brass-driven energy, a reminder of the band's early jazz rock roots before the softer ballads took over. This one was written by Terry Kath, and the track is a fast, funky plea for clarity in a relationship, delivered with Kath's gritty vocals. If you're a Terry Kath fan, you're going to love this song, and we're going to play a little bit of his vocals right now. Let's listen to Once or Twice. Now, in addition to this, Once or Twice has another rare element in it that we're going to take a moment and listen to. Walt Parazaider, while he was the guiding force that really kind of envisioned what the band would become, and he took a lead role in recruiting all of the members. In fact, the story goes that they used to practice in his mom's basement
Hmm.
before they became big. Unfortunately, we lost Walter earlier this year. That was a sad day.
Mhm.
Um, while Walter was a key part of the band, though, he didn't do many solos. So once or twice is one of those few examples of Walter Parazaider sax solo. So let's listen to the sax solo right now. Okay, Kelly, what are your thoughts about Once or Twice?
Oh, well, this one comes out swinging. The beat is nice and tight, and the horns are just full of energy right from the jump. Great way to open things up.
Yeah, that's what I thought. This is a great album opener. You just get you right into it. So then we take a little bit of a detour to You Are On My Mind, which is a breezy, blue eyed soul tune written and sung by James Pankow, who normally plays the trombone. It's built around a warm, keyboard forward arrangement that feels like a quiet smile, with Pankow's vocal delivering the kind of earnest vulnerability you don't always find in Chicago's bigger, brassy moments. My favorite part of this song is a classic horn soli that exemplifies their use of dynamics. So, Kelly, I want you to pay attention to the way that the horn ensemble just punches those notes. Let's take a listen to that right now. Now, the horn section plays an integral role as counterpoints to the vocals, and there's even a tasty trombone solo near the end. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about You Are On My Mind.
The horns give it a warm vibe. Fun bit of trivia here. James Pankow wrote this one, but when it came down to record it, he felt like they weren't nailing the vocal the way he heard it in his head. So, producer said basically to him, you should sing it yourself. And that take is what made it to the final album. It ended up being the third single off the record and climbed to number 49 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April of 1977.
I've got to tell you, this album, especially side one, is just a track by track, no skip. But this is one of my favorite parts. I really love this song. So let's listen to a little bit more of You Are On My Mind.
You are on my mind. Echo of your laughter flowing through me. Sitting by a mountain fire and wishing you were in my arms and loving me completely. No, no, no. Rocky Mountain eyes are very nice. You are gone, nothing's quite the same. No, no. LA is so far away and I can't stand another day without you by my side. Though I've tried.
Okay, next up, track number 3, Skin Tight, is Chicago at their most playful and funky. A horn driven romp written by James Pankow that leads hard into the band's jazz rock swagger. It's brisk, brassy, and a little mischievous, especially if you consider the lyrics. But we are PG-13, so we'll skip that part. Another extended horn soli illustrates just what makes Chicago Chicago. Let's listen to this part. And Kelly, I want you to listen to the horn swing. There's a certain way that you play notes, and they take it to another level. So let's listen to that part. Pankow has another trombone solo, which leads into a Terry Kath guitar solo. And by the way, just a word on Terry Kath. This was the next to the last album on which he played. He also played on Chicago 11 before his untimely accident that unfortunately took his life. But interestingly enough, he was considered to be one of the preeminent guitarists of his era, and an authority no less than Jimi Hendrix once said that Terry Kath was the best guitarist he had ever heard.
Wow.
So, Kelly, any thoughts on Skin Tight?
I love the groove on this track. It's not big on lyrics, but you know what they used to say on American Bandstand. It's got a good beat and it's easy to dance to. Sometimes that's really all you need.
That's it. Now we pivot to If You Leave Me Now, the album's defining moment, a delicate string-arranged ballad that highlights Cetera's vocals with a simple, unforgettable melody. Its orchestration and intimacy contrast sharply with the preceding songs that we've listened to, and historically it became the band's breakthrough pop single, the very first Chicago song to reach #1 on the Billboard chart. This song, in some ways, presaged the shift the band would make several years later under David Foster, minimizing the horns and leaning heavily into strings and Cetera's vocals. So, Kelly, what are your thoughts about If You Leave Me Now?
Well, this is the song I remember from the album. It was everywhere when I was growing up. Heavy rotation for sure. And I've always loved it. I like the acoustic guitar, the strings, the French horns. It all comes together so beautifully. If You Leave Me Now made it to #1 on the UK singles charts, #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and #1 on Billboard Easy Listening.
And one more #1. It became the band's first Grammy Award, which they won for the best pop vocal performance by a group. So let's listen to If You Leave Me Now.
If you leave me now, you'll take away the biggest part of me. Ooh, no, baby, please don't go. And if you leave me now, you'll take away the very heart of me.
on the fifth track, we're up with Together Again, one of Chicago 10's most easygoing moments. A bright mid tempo tune written by Loughnane that leans into the band's softer melodic side. It's built on a warm groove with breezy horn accents and a relaxed vocal by Loughnane. Again, that's fairly rare. He doesn't sing on too many of their songs. That feels like a reunion set to music. The track doesn't try to be flashy. Instead, it settles into a comfortable pocket, offering a feel-good reminder of Chicago's ability to blend pop charm with their signature brass textures. Kelly, your comments on Together Again?
When I was listening to this, I noticed it was a different voice. I was like, "Who is that?" And that's Lee Loughnane. Uh, like you said, he wrote it, and it was a nice change of pace to the album, hearing a different voice.
Now, we're mentioning that this is the 50th anniversary of Chicago 10, and the band formed in 1967, so that makes them 59 years in. I believe that Lee Loughnane is the only original member that still tours with the band. But can you imagine touring for nearly 60 years? And that's just unbelievable to me. And so I was fortunate to see them a couple of years ago. I think it was actually last year. And Jimmy Pankow and Lee Loughnane were the two remaining people. And here are these late 70s guys that are up on the stage doing all that stuff and playing all that great music. So what a history they had. Okay, let's listen to Together Again. Okay, we close out side one with a short atmospheric vignette built on light percussion, subtle texture, and even some steel drums that gives Another Rainy Day in New York City a breezy, slightly tropical feel. The song was released as a single and reached the US pop charts, peaking at number 2 on the adult contemporary chart. It offers a reflective counterpart to the side's rock and ballad moments while showcasing Peter Cetera's lead vocals and the band's taste for production flourishes. Kelly, your thoughts on Another Rainy Day?
I really like the steel drums and the acoustic guitars on this one. Such a cool combo. This track was actually climbing up the charts around the same time If You Leave Me Now got released as a single. Once If You Leave Me Now took off, it started to overshadow this one on the Hot 100. Still, Another Rainy Day, like you said, made it to number 2 on adult contemporary chart. So it definitely had its moment.
Absolutely. So let's listen to Another Rainy Day in New York City. Okay, my final thoughts are that don't stop with side one, keep going. Side two offers a number of other great tracks. And a lot of times on a road trip, I'll start this one at the very beginning of Once or Twice, and I'll just keep the album going the whole time. But anyway, side one, the reason we focused on that is because it's a study in contrast. As you can see, you have rock and funk energy, you have some pop songwriting, some orchestral tendencies with the strings, and atmospheric nuance, all within 6 tracks. And here's the other thing that amazes me: you have 6 songs, 5 different composers, and 4 lead vocalists, horns on virtually every track. So for listeners who really crave that horn, which is like me, the side really delivers. For those who prefer concise pop music craft, the emergence of If You Leave Me Now signals a new direction for the band. And the sequencing makes this side feel deliberate, a short suite that captures Chicago at a crossroads. By the way, this album was nominated for a Grammy Award for Album of the Year, losing to Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
So it's certainly no sin to lose to Stevie Wonder, right?
Right. Yeah.
And here's the other interesting thing. The other nominees were the Silk Degrees album by Boss Skaggs and by George Benson. So what an amazing year for albums, right? And so anyway. So Kelly, your final thoughts.
Well, like you said, go to side two because I really liked Mama Mama with Satara's vocals there. They were so understated, and honestly, the music, it overpowers his voice, but somehow it totally works. There's a smooth, jazzy quality throughout it, and the brass section is right in the pocket. And then you have that funky disco style wah wah guitars layered in. So that is my second favorite track too, If You Leave Me Now. So I just wanted to add that in there. And thank you for joining us today. If you liked this episode, please make sure to subscribe to It's the Groove Podcast wherever you hear us. And make sure you follow us on socials. We are on Twitter X, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. And remember,
it's not the beat, it's the groove. Thanks for listening.
bye.